Most people are not too happy when one of these hunchback critters comes around, and usually their removal is goal number one. However, there are some who want these varmints removed, but not exterminated. I am not of this school, and an old-fashioned snap trap works just fine for me. But for those others, I present a project crafted more in tune with their choice. I begin my project with cutting door guides. They must be a loose fit. Next, I'm making a fulcrum with the beam to pivot on. After a few more cuts, it looks like this. Next, I'm using a piece of poplar for the beam. It also needs to be a loose fit. I often use painter's tape when making layout because after I'm done there are no lines to erase and otherwise mar my project. I have chosen to divide my beam into thirds, 1/3 for the trigger end and 2/3 for the door end. I'm cutting away a little material to lighten up the trigger end. This also gives a little designer look to the beam. Some clean up with a rasp file. And then there's sanding to finish off the shape. Here I'm drilling the hole for the actual pivot point. I need some small screw eyes for my project, so I'll check my stock. This size should work fine. I've inserted the screw eyes, and here's the partial assembly. Where I live, redwood is plentiful, and since redwood weathers well, it is the material of choice for this project. Here I run the pieces through my table saw because they tend to vary a little in width. Now I make a curve to accept the screen, which I intend to place at the end of the track. Now I'm ready to start my assembly. I apply wood glue to both pieces and then clamp them together. I let the pieces set overnight. Now I'm going to put them together. I did remember to make right and left-handed parts. The clamps will hold the pieces together for nailing. Here I'm wiping off the excess glue. A brad nailer is such a handy tool for projects like this. Now to notch the lid. Both notches are not exactly the same, but that doesn't matter on a project like this. My bandsaw makes cutting the notches a breeze. Again, I need to do some layout. On the lid, I need to mark holes for the trigger pin and also for the fulcrum location. I drill the trigger hole from the bottom because the wood is a bit green and I need a clean, sharp edge where the trigger makes contact. a pilot hole in the fulcrum, a spot of glue, and a screw for attachment. I purchased some screen from Home Depot. Expanded metal is especially difficult to mark, but the tape makes it easy. Here the screen is inserted in the trap. And the lid is glued and nailed in place. A piece of 1/2-inch dowel will work for the trigger mechanism. I'll need a little bit of chain for my project, so again I turn to my stock. This piece should work nicely. I pre-drilled a hole in the end of the dowel to prevent the screw eye from splitting it. A quick check to make everything is working correctly so far. Next I wanted some kind of lock to prevent the rat from opening the door. I know rats are pretty smart, so I don't want to give him an opportunity to escape. I'm using a piece of flat bar to make this lock. Here again, the weight and pivot point are important because I'm only using gravity to make the thing work. The finished shape, it just needs a hole. Here is the rat's view from inside the trap. The bait is placed in front of the trigger rod, so any little nudge will set it off. I'll try it out with a little blast of air. Everything seems to work fine, ready for a real test.